Keila Marmol, here with Anna, Surina, and Daniel Bereza on the extinction of an ecosystem. In particular, we're going to be talking about the Arctic tundra and the changes that have been occurring recently that you've seen in the news, and not only in the news, but the world itself. We'll be talking about the effects that it's been doing on the Adélie penguins in particular, the rise of the sea level, the change of the environment in the harshest environment, one of the coldest places in the earth. So it's uninhabitable by humans, yet humans are doing such a devastating effect on it with the air quality and our energy consumption elsewhere that there's no longer hope for a future where we see penguins. Beginning with the rise of the sea level, we'll be discussing how the ice has been melting. With our data, we were not able to see the change in inches, but we were able to find data from NASA taking pictures over several of years on the global mean of the sea level, the GMSL, and the glacial isostatic adjustment, the GIA, which is the ongoing movement of land once burdened by ice glaciers, which is in science known since platelets are moving. The devastating effects of the rise in the sea level, it affects the rise in magnesium that's in the water that the fish are drinking and living in, and which the penguins are eating, and as well as us humans. And then the rise of the sea level also affects us in different parts of the world, in particular Asia, where land masses are going because of the sea going inland. So the sea level in the South Arctic, as shown on our slide, we do not have data obviously for 2017, but from the 1990s all the way until 2016, there is a trend where the movement of the ocean and the current has flipped dramatically from a negative 1.5 thousand to rising all the way to over 1,000. That is a change of over 100%. Looking at the sea level in the North Arctic, same exact trend, even though this is completely different data. And in fact, in the Arctic, it's a little bit higher at 1.5 thousand when the smoothed GIA is applied. Looking at the trend in the correlation of the GMSL and the GIA, you could see that it's going upward, meaning the levels of the ocean, the waves, the current movements are only getting higher and higher as each year progresses. This leads into carbon dioxide because obviously these animals in these harsh environments aren't doing anything out of the normal that they haven't been doing for hundreds of years. So it has to be something out of their ecosystem, which is us, human beings around the world. So when looking at what's causing the ice to melt, it's the carbon dioxide and the greenhouse effect, which we're contributing. Countries with the most CO2 output is China, United States, Brazil, and Russia. China, Brazil, and Russia, ironically, are the top countries, BRICS, known in the business world, that we're trying to develop and create more factories, bring more people, bring more cars. And this is only adding to the air that's already affected. In the graph that we looked at on Watson, you can see that the change in China, for example, starts in the 1990s and only grows higher. The United States has been doing a little bit better in recent years from 2007 to 2012 and bringing down our CO2 slightly, but still places like Russia and Brazil are only climbing as the years go on. Our heat wave map, you can see that from the 1990s, it triples to what we are trying to bring down in 2007 and beyond. So passing it over to Dan, he will talk about oil consumption and what's bringing these things to cause carbon dioxide.
Hi, I'm Dan. The main topic that I researched for the competition was oil consumption and depletion. I will start with consumption. Based on my research and data findings, a concrete pattern that I saw was that oil depletion rates were on an exponential rise from the years of 1960 all the way up to the year 2013. A similar survey I conducted, I measured the sum of 3 medium years as portrayed in this graph, differentiated between the 1960, 85, and 2006. And it showed such that the average of 85 and 06 was nearly the same as the sum that it was in the 1960s, indicating that this indicated the sums of the two indicator years that were very great. The mean numbers for 06, 85, 96 were about 200 and 2,200 kilotons, with an on average yearly increase of 9.27%, which kept throughout all subsequent years. In terms of depletion, a result that I inferred from was the fact of the matter was that the mean depletion rate of oil throughout all the countries in the year 06 was nearly the sum of 61, which indicates an exponential curve increase in oil depletion and the harm to our wildlife, which I'll get back to very shortly. This type of depletion on our Arctic Sea is at an all-time minimum. Arctic ice has fallen to dangerous levels in recent years. There's still a huge amount of left, but what it was in the 80s and 90s just aren't there anymore. These figures of what the amount of ice used to be is about 14 to 16 million square kilometers versus today's number of just 7 million kilometers. And with the above mentioned facts, they call for a new renewable resource, one that won't threaten or will cause extinction to any of our habitat. Anna Surina will go into this topic.
Okay. So because oil is not an infinite resource, you need to find a new way to power your homes, your cars, and your houses. On this map, you can see that the world actually started to realize this. In the early to mid 2000s, you can see a spike in renewable energy use. When not too long ago, in the 1990s, that's when the first increase in normal energy use began. Which kind of correlates to what Keila said, how in the 1990s the carbon dioxide tripled, and you can see how that relates to the first graph with normal energy consumption, where in the 1990s energy was consumed much more drastically than in the 1970s. Even though North America, they're the ones who kind of started the renewable energy trend, so in the most recent data we have, Europe is the leader in using renewable resources. And they actually are the leader in using energy in general, even though they are the smallest continent out of the 6. The environment is not the only one affected by this drastic increase in energy use. The Adelaide penguins, who reside in the Arctic, their breeding pairs have been drastically decreasing since the early 1990s to what we have here, 2012. Now, they are a vital part of the ecosystem because killer whales and long leopard seals rely on them as their food source. Now, if you remove that, you kind of disrupt the ecosystem, and it kind of throws everything off.
Taking from what Anna said about Adelaide penguins, looking at our chart on the ecosystem of the Arctic, you can see that the dominant predators, which are killer whales and leopard seals, eat the penguins. But below them, penguins are eating the fish, the krill, and the squid. If you remove the penguin from the equation, it throws everyone off. From the smallest animal, which is the plankton, to the killer whales. Killer whales and leopard seals would become extinct much faster than the rate that they already are, and the plankton and krill would exceed in their population.
Now, we only did our presentation on the Arctic tundra. The effects of CO2 gases and oil depletion affects us worldwide. So this is just a small part of what is happening in the world. There's so much more that is occurring, that is being disrupted, that we still don't know how it's going to affect our planet. To survive in the future, we really need to use more renewable resources so that way the Earth can continue living.
So with all this being said, if you take anything from our presentation, please save the penguins. Thank you for your time.